Hey, hope you're well, and welcome to the 2023 gift list. No, don't worry, you haven't magically lost a couple of weeks. I'm doing this one a little bit earlier this year to coincide with Black Friday and the savings usually associated with that. That's the traditional Black Friday, of course, not the tawdry commercial month of Black Friday as this otherwise sacred event has become. So I do one of these lists every year as a clue in the fact that it's the 2023 edition. Previous year's videos are linked up down below as well, so that if there's nothing on this list that tickles your fancy, then there may well be on one of the previous years. I'm going to start with a couple of things you can't actually buy. One, because it's not available, not yet anyway, and the other because, well, it's actually free. So 10-Minute Workshop Plus member Paul is a Festool domino user and also a bit of a 3D printing buff, like the vast majority of Festool domino users. A little bit baffled by this preset gauge of material thicknesses here, which is very German. 16mm jumps straight to 20, bypassing 18 or 19mm. A few people I know in the US have made their own versions of that with imperial measurements on. Paul's gone one step further and made alternative metric versions for this. One of these has 12, 15, 18, 22, 25, 30 and 40mm presets, and the other has 15, 17, 18, 19, 22, 32 and 40mm presets as well. Paul's not making these available commercially. He's just put the files up. What are they? STL files, the 3D printing files. He's put those up on Thingiverse for anybody to use. So to take advantage of them, firstly, you will need to be a domino user, and secondly, you will need either a 3D printer or access to somebody who can 3D print them for you. But yeah, great idea. I don't know why nobody's done this before. It's just going to make centering the domino in the thickness of the material much easier for the folks who aren't based in Germany. And the next thing that you can't buy, at least not yet, comes from 10-Minute Workshop Plus member Stu Parker. Stu's also a 3D printing wizard. He's done 18mm guide bushes for me for certain routers, and also the connecting bars for the rail hinge. He became aware, as many people have, of my flappy paddle phobia on Sanders, and he's actually produced a little shoe that covers that up and keeps it on effectively, so you can just use the on, off and speed control buttons lower down. It is just a proof of concept at the moment. I hope to be getting a prototype for it very soon, and when I do, I'll be sure to post about it. But for now, it's a great idea, a really simple solution, a bit more high-tech than my piece of sticky tape, and a lot less permanent than just gluing the paddle down. So keep your eyes peeled on Stu's Etsy and also his website. I'll link both of those up down below. So let's move on to things that you can actually purchase. £3 doesn't buy you much these days, although it will get you a month's behind the scenes membership at 10-Minute Workshop Plus, just saying. It will also get you a bag of these. These are waxing sticks or tongue depressors. I call them fat lolly sticks, basically. These are just really handy to have around the workshop for all kinds of things, whether that's for mixing paint or resins or applying glue and finishes. I like to use a pair of simple side cutters, cut them in half, and then you've got an angled stick that's really good for either applying adhesive or sometimes scraping out glue squeeze from a rebate or a joint. Just generally great to have. They also happen to be almost exactly a 1/16 of an inch, 1.5 millimeters thick. So really useful to have as a gauge as well. Moving up to £4 now, and £4 will get you a pack of 6 pastry brushes. These are silicone basting brushes. I like to use these as glue brushes. I find that the bristles are a little bit long. You trim them down with a pair of scissors, and you can just use them to apply glues and finishes. What you do is you put them to one side once they're finished with, and the glue just peels off once it's dry. So great to have around the workshop, completely reusable and recyclable, and with half a dozen to choose from, well, you're never going to be short of a glue brush. So way back in the handyman days, I bought a pair of these double suction cup things. They worked pretty well. I used them for maneuvering a big mirror into position, but I've never used them since. They're just too big and awkward for what I do these days. But I've come across these, a much smaller set of mini suction cups. Shout out to the guys on the Finsa WhatsApp chat group. I think it was Tom Molyneux who highlighted these. These are just 60mm across, and yet they pull an amazing 15 kilos of pressure. They're perfect for any time where you want to take off, say, a plinth or an infill. I've used one most recently in our new kitchen build, more on that in a future video. We were missing a drawer handle, so I just popped one of these on the drawer and it's worked perfectly well for quite a long time. Completely non-marking, £5 for a pack of 2. Great value as well, and definitely worth having. So we've been doing a lot of painting recently, which means a lot of paintwork touch-up as well. And these little guys are really clever. You get a little syringe and a paintwork touch-up brush. You fill the brush holder with the paint that you're actually using, and then you get a little applicator that keeps the paint fresh on a little touch-up brush that's perfect for picking out those odd little details that you've missed. Great value. I think there was £6 for a pack of 10. So yeah, definitely worth having if you're doing any kind of paintwork or any decorating. Now, as I get older, I find I need to write things down more, and whilst those little yellow sticky notes are handy, they always peel off and you can somehow never quite write enough on them. This is where something like the Rhodia memo pad comes in. This is a memo number 13. It's an A5 sized pad with the classic Rhodia dot pattern on the paper. Nice quality paper, perfect for little memo notes or small sketches of project ideas. About £6, I think. Decent enough value, as always. Really nice paper and really nicely designed, and a pleasure to write on. So you're probably familiar with the Sharpie. I've only just discovered the Sharpie twin tip. This is just a brilliant but obvious idea. It's got a standard Sharpie at one end and it's got an ultrafine at the other. I mean, how I've not known about these, I don't know. They're such an obvious thing to do and such a great idea. You've always got the right pen with you at the right time. No more scrabbling around for the thick one or the thin one. Sharpie twin tip, about £7 or £8 for a pack of 3. Definitely worth having around the workshop or in the office. So I think it was last year, or maybe even the one before, that my favourite Staedtler Norris pencils, school pencils, were bypassed for the Bicmatic Original. This is not a disposable pencil, it's a mechanical pencil with a 0.7mm lead, which is refillable. I like a 0.7 because it's fairly robust and it doesn't break easily. However, I have discovered that the Bicmatic Original also comes in a fine version as well. So if you really need a 0.5mm lead, perhaps this is the one to go for. They're about £8 for a pack of 12, so great value, whichever thickness you choose. So I've been getting by with an old pair of Helix brass school compasses. Decided to treat myself to something a little bit bigger, and I've picked up a pair of 8-inch 200mm steel compasses off Amazon. They're not the finest of finish, but they're great value at just £9 or thereabouts. Definitely worth having in the workshop, and they also work as a pair of dividers as well. So next is a book called How to Build Impossible Things by New York-based carpenter and cabinet maker Mark Ellison. Mark's a high-end builder, remodeler, $1 million kitchens and refurbs and that kind of thing, all based in New York. So fascinating. If you've ever worked in a city, you'll know the specific challenges that they face. If you've ever worked with architects and interior designers who describe punched steel spiral staircases as diaphanous, then you'll know the kind of thing to expect. There'll be something here that resonates, I think, with everybody who's worked in the business, particularly if you worked in cities, because doing installs and general construction work in cities presents some very specific challenges, let's say. It's a good read. The writing's a little bit florid at times, and it gets a bit touchy-feely towards the end, but yeah, very interesting, and always good to read about how other carpenters, other cabinet makers go about their business. You know, sometimes you need to put a hole in something, and it's either too big or too awkward to get under the drill press, and you can't be bothered to chuck a bit into the router to do it. That's where these little drilling guides come into their own. This is one called Drill Block. Just a really simple 4mm to 12mm steel drilling guide. I like the way that it's got center lines on either side of the guide so you can line the holes up easily. And just really good, really handy to have, even if you're workshop based. Just sometimes you just need to put a hole in something quickly and easily, and this will do the job and make sure that it's also nice and perpendicular as well. 12 or 13 pounds for this drill block drilling guide. So next, it's these colourful plastic packers. These are just simple packers or shims. I've used these for years and years and years. They come in all kinds of shapes and sizes and styles. A good assorted mixed pack of these cost you 12 or 14 pounds or thereabouts. The most used are 1, 2 and 3 mil for me, but they come up to 6 or 8 mil, sometimes even 10, I think. And I find that they're just generally very handy things to have, whether you're in the workshop or out on site and you need a 2 or 3 mil gauge and you want it to be reasonably precise instead of just using a coin in your pocket. Like, who has coins? So I did a video earlier in the year about travel toolkits. So one of my favourite little things, which I can't find anymore, was a Blue Point little mini ratchet handle. I bought this one to replace it. This is a saber cut mini micro ratchet handle, and all it is, it takes any standard 1/4 inch hex bit and turns it into a ratcheting driver. The reason I like this one in particular is because you can also put the bit in the end of the handle, which makes it more like a regular screwdriver, much easier to make the big turns with that, and then pop the bit into that ratcheting handle and use that just to do the last couple of quarter turns to nip things up really tightly. About 14 pounds for the saber cut mini micro ratchet handle. Well worth having in your toolbox. As is this is the wriggle little mini stubby screwdriver handle. The best part of this is it has all the bits actually stored in the handle. So you got space for half a dozen in there. Obviously it comes with a set number of bits. You can throw away the Phillips ones, of course, and replace those with something a bit more useful. Or you can combine that with any ordinary magnetic hex extension if you want something that gives you a little bit more reach. But as a self-contained little stubby pack of screwdrivers, very handy for having either in a travel toolkit or rattling around in the bottom of your toolbox with everything else. So shout out to my Instagram pal Dave Cullen for this one. Dave posted about this a little while back. This is the Alpha CS5. I don't have a link to this down below because Amazon don't sell it for some reason. Just Google it. I think I bought this one off FFX. It's, on the face of it, a very simple little ratcheting handle snap-off blade knife. The party piece is that on the other side you've got a slide-out mini saw blade, super sharp, pointed at the end so you can bodge it into plasterboard or drywall. Keyhole kind of blade, so useful for those kind of cutouts, but also super sharp and perfectly capable of giving a very clean finish if you're slicing through a little bit of softwood or plywood. I don't know why nobody's come up with this idea before. I always used to have a little mini folding Japanese type pull saw in my toolbox. I would have had one of these all day long. I think I paid about 11 or 12 pounds, maybe 16 with delivery. Definitely worth having. And of course it's an Alpha knife, so the blades are super, super sharp. Great idea, and thanks to Dave for putting me onto that one. So it feels like we're all sort of one-man band social media entrepreneurs these days. We're all doing stuff for Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. The biggest headache for me is that some of it is landscape shaped and some of it is portrait shaped. And that's a bit of a drag, especially if you've got your camera on a tripod. What I found really useful is this newer phone mount, because it's firstly got a really solid screw thread to keep your phone nice and tight, and secondly it has a twist grip where it will just spin around from landscape to portrait. It's quite tall, so that even with if you're using one of the bigger phones these days, it'll fit in there and still spin around. All it does is mount your phone and hold it nice and steady. It doesn't do anything. You don't have any other mounting options with that, but at 15 quid it's really good value and very lightweight but sturdily made. If you do want something a little bit more sophisticated, then there's this Ulanzi ST27 phone mount. It is only a spring grip, a spring loaded mount, but it's solid aluminium. It has click stops between portrait and landscape. It's not quite as tall, so you'd need to mount your phone slightly off center in it to get it to spin without catching, but it does give you additional mounting options, 2 cold shoe mounts and 2 1/4-20 threads as well if you did need to mount microphone or something like that. It is twice the price though, so think carefully as to whether you want one of these or 2 of these or one of these and spend the money on something else. Either of them do a great job though. So I had a cheap little laser from Aldi for about 25 quid. Bought it years ago and it worked fine until I dropped it and then it stopped working altogether. So I bought another one. I've got the Inventor green laser level. It's self-leveling and automatic. All it does is do a cross line, but it's a really nice, clean, clear line which doesn't spread the further away from center you get. The reason that's important, of course, is that it doesn't matter how good or how level that line is. If it's 3 millimeters thick in the center, but a 1/4 inch at the end, you're just working on guesswork. So solid optics in a well-priced package, about 30 quid for this, for a green line laser level. Super simple little crosshairs. That's all it does. Most of the time, that's all you need. So drifting into the £30-ish price bracket, it would be remiss of me not to have some shameless self-promotion. I have a few pairs of these Square Enough clamping guides still available, the original and still Square Enough. Yes, these are available in the 10-Minute Workshop store at 10minute.shop, and there is a Black Friday special deal on for this weekend only, 10% off all physical products in the store. No discount codes or anything like that to remember. It's just a straight 10% special, ends at midnight on Monday. If you're after a pair of these or any other physical products, get over there now, because this weekend is the time to make that purchase and you save yourself a couple of quid. In previous years, I featured the Weira Theatre Advent Calendar. They're good, but they're a little bit samey because there's only so many tool types you can fit into that kind of thing. So I was really pleased to see Metabo entering the Advent Calendar fray this year as well. So I purchased this, £42 for the Advent Calendar. Quite a neat little toolbox you get with a ratchet handle, a T-shaped ratchet handle, and a few other things. I think they might need to work on their packaging though, because I'm pretty sure when it comes to me opening it, I don't think behind window number 19 is the tool they think it might be. I mean, I don't know if this was shaken up spectacularly by the guys who delivered it, but it arrived sounding like a sack of spanners, which pretty much it is. £42 I paid for this one. I'm very much in the same sort of vein as the Weira one, which is also available this year, of course. So I don't talk about electronics or personal entertainment or that kind of thing. I'm an iPhone user, so inevitably I've got a pair of AirPods and all that sort of stuff. But I came across these and bought these recently, the Earfun Air Pro 3. You can see what they did there, right? These are a very simple and very familiar size and shaped little clamshell container which recharges your headphones. Bluetooth connection works flawlessly with all of my iDevices. The Air Pro 3s have the same kind of active noise cancelling with transparency, so you can still hold a conversation with somebody as the AirPods do. They are black rather than white, and they are also just £50. If you can live without the transparency alike feature, the Air Pro 2s have active noise cancelling and they're just £40 or thereabouts. I've been super impressed with these. I've used them while I'm sanding. The noise cancelling works extremely well. They sound great to my elderly ears, and they do everything that my AirPods do, except they also connect to my iPad and my phone at the same time, which is something that the AirPods have never done. They're a little bit flaky in some regards. Taking one out doesn't always pause the track you're listening to or the video that you're watching, whereas that was 100% successful with the AirPods. But overall, for a quarter of the price of Apple's AirPods, I think these are fantastic value and should definitely be on your shopping list if you're interested in a set of Bluetooth earbuds. Another little bit of shameless self-promotion for the 10-minute workshop Loose 10-in Jig 30. This is the Loose 10-in Jig revised and rejuvenated to take a standard 30mm guide bush. So all you need is a plunge router and a 30mm guide bush to start making loose 10-in cabinetry. As I mentioned earlier, there's a 10-minute workshop 10% discount at the store this weekend at 10minute.shop. No discount codes to remember, just a straight 10% off all physical products. That offer ends at midnight on Monday, so if you're on the fence about one of these, this is the weekend to get off that fence and make a purchase. So moving up to around the £100 mark, we've got a couple of Bench Dogs products. I am a Bench Dogs affiliate. I will earn from qualifying sales. Be sure to use the offer code 10-minute workshop at checkout for a 5% discount across the board at benchdogs.co.uk. We're just going to look at a couple of products. There's a brand new Ultra guide rail square. This is a very complex piece of design and machining because it works with pretty much every guide rail you can think of. You do need to move the latching mechanism around depending on the type of guide rail that you're using, but it works extremely well. I've tried it with all the rails that I have and it's worked flawlessly. It also acknowledges the fact that these are quite an investment, and if you do change your guide rails or change saw platforms, then at least this is a rail square that you'll be able to take with you if you do make that change. The other product I'm going to look at, again, there's loads of Bench Dogs measuring and marking products, but I do really like the new combination square. This is lovely because it's double-sided. It is relentlessly, shamelessly a square, no 45 degrees on this, just a simple 90, and you can use it either side depending on what you're measuring or marking and depending on which end of the scale you want to measure from. There's a lovely little slide out tab, sort of a nod to the rail square there to stop the body of the square falling off the edge of your workpiece as well. And again, that just slides into the body so it's not in the way when you don't need it. Both lovely products. Tools don't need to look this good, but there's no harm when they do. They're not cheap, but as I said at the start, you can use the 10-minute workshop discount code for a 5% discount across the board at benchdogs.co.uk. And thanks so much to Ralph for extending that offer to everybody. And the next product that was gifted to the channel but is here on merit comes from Vladimir at Miroc Toolworks. It's been quite a few years since Vlad made this style of ruler. I bought this way back and it's performed perfectly. But Vladimir's moved on from machining acrylic and he now machines exquisite brass rulers, sometimes coming in this custom container, and these can be personalized as well. The machining on this is absolutely fantastic, and just like the Bench Dogs tools don't need to look this good, but there's no harm in having them if they do. £130 or thereabouts for a 150mm ruler is certainly up there as something of an indulgence. But if you're going to indulge yourself, well, this is the time of year to do it, I think. The machining and the quality of the work on this is absolutely outstanding. And if you don't know the backstory, Vladimir Miroc Toolworks is based in the Ukraine, so obviously he's been working in difficult circumstances over the last year or two. And finally, the most indulgent item on the list, me and Mrs. 10 Minutes, I've been having some work done in the house, as you may know, and we had some blinds fitted recently, and the guy, the installer who came to measure up, had one of these. I'm going to have to step back to give you a proper look at this, because this is a measuring rod. I hadn't seen these before. A few people have mentioned that they're familiar with them, but basically it is a variable story stick or rod which has the tape measure in the top end. I'm going to have to move back a little way to show you it in its full glory. What you can do, you can just put your foot on the base and measure all the way up to the ceiling. And that's the measurement right there, 2 meters 38. Yes, that is just under 8 feet tall. That is so annoying. You can't believe it. This is an absurdly expensive piece of kit. I paid £187 for this, and it doesn't even have a laser on it. But if you're in the business of any kind of install or measuring up prior to an install, one of these would pay for itself extremely quickly. I'm a big fan of the Halterforce Tal meter tape measure because it does a similar kind of thing. I did say recently that it's kind of a variable rod or story stick, but it's still a tape. This is just magnificent, absolutely solid for measuring sideways, particularly vertically as well. If you earn your living by measuring things, then something like this will pay for itself very quickly. £187 I paid for this. It may be available on a Black Friday special, I'm not sure. This is the Messfix Compact 3 meter measuring rod or story stick. But anyway, I think that's probably it for this year's 2023 gift list. A bit of a long one, I know, but there was a lot to get through, and previous gift list videos are all in a playlist. I'll link that up down below as well. As we're in the spirit of gift giving, can I just remind you that I'm giving away my Mirka Deros and Dios sanders. There are details in the giveaways forum at 10minuteworkshop.com. You do need to be a 10-Minute Workshop Plus member to access that. Or you could just sign up to the newsletter at 10minuteworkshop.email. There'll be a special giveaway newsletter going out this weekend with the details in there as well. But I'll call this one done for this week. Thanks so much for taking a look, and I'll see you all again very soon. All right, take care.